Mary Kadowski,
Here.
Gary Paul,
Here.
Dan Pamprin,
Here.
Chris Atkinson,
Here.
Andy Krowski,
Here.
Dale Quinn,
Here.
and Dennis Persick's excused.
Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember our men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda.
Make a motion. Second.
Motion and a second to approve as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, action on the site plan review minutes from the regular meeting of February 18th.
Move to approve. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Review plans for the following locations. Number 1, action regarding site plan review for Broadway Automotive Collision Center, 2650 South Ashland, Parcels VA-163-1, VA-160-4-1, and VA-160-4-2. Aaron.
The requested site plan review, for those of you who have been around the area for a while, is the former Red Carpet Lanes, bowling alley, ERA, Titletown Realtors Building, Roundtable Real Estate Building. The building itself is proposed to be repurposed by Broadway Automotive for a collision center. As you can see in the site plan, they are proposing to reduce the amount of parking or asphalt on the property, add some green, some grass areas, some trees, so on and so forth. In terms of the building itself, the first floor will be used for the collision center itself. The second floor will be used for office space for Broadway Automotive. Exterior improvements to the building are relatively minor. They will be painting the building, which will certainly improve it, adding a small addition to the kind of northwest portion of the property, or of the building, for the collision center entrance for the vehicles, and some new metal wall panels we'll also utilize concealed fasteners, be some overhead doors that'll be added, again, just to improve the functionality of the building for its use as a collision center. There will be a stormwater retention pond. If you look up on the screen, it'll be located in this area right here, this corner parcel. That is identified as a wetland on the DNR wetland inventory. However, they have received an exemption from the DNR to utilize that property for a stormwater pond. So we'll actually clean that area up a little bit as well. Gary, you'll be happy to know that the dilapidated sign that fronts on Ashland will be removed, as will the foundations. I did include, as a late handout, a copy, just a photograph, a sample photograph of the fencing or fence panels that will be utilized to screen the collision center front from Ashland. Under our code, we do require fencing being decorative for this type of use. The panels will hide the cars that will be stored on site as part of their collision work.
Aaron, could you explain where that fence is going to go through the property?
I can. I'll just zoom in here on the site plan. So in terms of the site plan right here, you see this is the access road for Ashland. This is where the fencing will be, right here behind this grassed area. So the decorative fencing will extend along here, and then chain link on the sides to, again, enclose the yard for the cars.
How tall is that fencing?
I believe that is going to be about 6 feet.
Okay, is there going to be decorative plantings in front of it?
Nothing is indicated. If you'd like to see that, we certainly can include that as a condition of approval.
Gary, could you talk into your mic for the recording, please? Thank you.
All right, I interrupted you. You continue.
In terms of, you asked about plantings in front of the decorative fence panel. That certainly could be added as a condition of approval to break up the mass. In terms of the actual conditions of approval, or the recommended conditions of approval from staff, there are a few. All new metal wall panels, this would be for the building, utilize concealed fasteners. All new ground-mounted and rooftop mechanicals greater than 8 inches visible from the street or adjoining properties are to be screened. Of course, the catch-all meet all other applicable requirements of the site plan review and all other municipal ordinances. From engineering, verify if the utility water service abandonment is needed. It actually has been clarified that is required. They will be abandoning the 4-inch line extending from Ashland. Sign and submit the stormwater maintenance agreement and provide the village a copy after recording at the county. Work with public safety on relocation of the fire department connection to the FDC. Its current location actually is on a loading dock on the west end of the building, and it's a very difficult location for the fire department to access. So they're asking to work with the fire department to relocate that fire department connection. Tim Bachneck did ask for a detailed landscape plan, including a mixture of trees, shrubs, perennials, and ornamental grasses, with the planting schedule to include species, sizes, and quantities. And Gary, I think this would be a good location to include plantings along the fence panel, if that's part of the motion. Bike and Ped did have a recommendation to include bicycle parking, meeting the recommendations of the Association of Pedestrians and Bicycling Professionals near the main entrance. So as it's a recommendation, we'd leave that up to the property owner to take that under advisement. I'd be happy to answer any questions for you, if you have any.
I like the proposal for a building that is in bad need of some restoration. It's nice to see that dilapidated, blighted sign taken down that should have been taken down centuries ago. I would make the recommendations for some low shrubbery along the fence. I think anything that grew tall would probably rub against it in time, and we'd have a bigger mess. So other than that, I think it's, the question I had about stormwater, that's in that low valley to the northwest corner in that property. Used to have a bunch of rubbish, trees and shrubs, and actually just a bunch of unknown species in there. That's where that stormwater pond is going, I'm assuming?
That's correct.
Okay, okay. All right, if there's no other questions, I'll move to approve the site plan for the Broadway Automotive Center at 2650 Ashland Avenue with staff conditions, along with the conditions of some small type of shrubbery in front of the fence.
Okay, so, and Andy seconded it with the conditions and the shrubbery?
Conditions on the low-lying shrubs by the panel, fence panels all the way down.
Okay, does everybody understand the motion? Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 2, action regarding amendment request to the Bohemian Park Planned Unit Development PUD height limit. Aaron?
Under the village code, we do have a height limitations throughout the village as indicated on the map that you see up on the screen. The gray areas have a height limit of 36 feet. The blue areas have a height limit of, apologize, I didn't bring my cheaters, of 60 feet, and the orange areas go up to 120 feet. This was enacted, I believe, back in 2003. So this is still in effect for the Bohemian Park. In terms of the property itself, what is being requested is an increase of the allowable height under the planned unit development from 60 feet to 70 feet. There's an approved planned unit development for this property that was approved as part of the overall development plan that indicates the 60-foot height. The proposal for building number 2 that you'll see shortly under site plan review is for an increase up to 70 feet under the PUD. If the building was located immediately to the west of this building, it could go up to 120 feet by right. So from a staff standpoint, we see this being a reasonable request to increase the height 10 feet to accommodate the proposed building number 2. I'd be happy to answer any questions for you under this PUD amendment request. And we'll touch on the actual design of the building and everything else on the next agenda item. So this is just for the PUD amendment for 70 feet.
Aaron, that 10 feet you're talking about, is that 10 feet taller than the present building on the property?
It will be a little bit taller than the current building. That building is 4 stories. The proposed building is 5 stories.
That'll be 5 stories, all right. I don't see any problem with that.
Me neither. I'll move to approve this.
Okay, so Dan made the motion, Dale second, to approve the planned unit development height limit change. Everybody understand? Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, action regarding site plan review for the Bohemian Park Phase 2, 2100 Holmgren Way, parcel VA-67-A-2. Aaron?
And just going back to the previous agenda item, that will be forwarded to the Plan Commission for their recommendation tonight at 5:30, and then Village Board at their meeting at the end of the month. So in terms of building number 2, what you see on screen.
Aaron?
Yes,
Can I interrupt you again?
yes,
That is really not building number 2, though, on the sketch here.
correct. Yes, it's the second building to be built. Let me clarify that.
Okay.
Right. Yep. So this building is proposed to be located at the southwest corner of Holmgren Way and Morris Avenue. As you see up on screen here, here's the overall site plan for the project. Just zoom in a little bit. So this building right here in the south, be the southeast corner of the parcel is built. That's the 4-story building fronting on Holmgren Way. The next building that's under for site plan review is this building right here at the corner that extends up to Morris Avenue. This is proposed to be a 5-story building. A couple of unique aspects to this building, different from the first building that was constructed. I mentioned it's 5 stories, so it is 1 additional story. It does have a small retail component at the north end, right here, in the green area that you see. And there's also a called a quasi-public pavilion area that will be used to accommodate outside seating for the retail use, as well as full occasional entertainment opportunities for people to just kind of to hang out, read a book, whatever it might be. The clubhouse that you see here in the middle, that is not part of this phase yet. That'll be in a future phase. So at this time, let me just go to the next page. What you see right here that's outlined will be part of this phase of development. There is underground parking for 70 stalls. There are 69 proposed units in the building itself. And I'll just continue on to the, you can see the floor plans right here. These are some pretty sizable units. I think they'll do a nice job that way. And then in terms of the elevations, you can see the height here as far as it being 5 stories. Exterior materials will consist of similar palette to what you see with the first building, as far as it being the Cream City brick, Corten, weathered steel accents, as well as metal panel accents and window systems. Let's go down to the renderings here. Move on. There we go. So what you see here, this right here would be Morris Avenue, and then Holmgren Way running this way. This would be the small retail use right here, the quasi-public area out here on Morris Avenue. What I'll do is I'll run through the recommended conditions of approval, and then I'll hand it over to Tim Willaz of Engberg Anderson to give a little more detail on the project from the owner standpoint. In terms of recommended conditions of approval, all metal panels are utilized concealed fasteners, all ground-mounted and roof-mounted mechanical units and associated materials need to be screened from view from the subject property line and right-of-way boundaries. As the building is greater than 50 feet tall and within Airport Zoning District C, the applicant must obtain an application for a height permit and approval from the Green Bay Austin Straubel Airport Director. Obtain a PUD amendment from the village for height. Meet all applicable parts of 17-200, all other applicable parts of the Ashwaubenon Municipal Code. From engineering, contact the utility operations supervisor to quote on connecting the village water main and stubbing 8-inch line to the development. The cost to be charged to development includes restoration of road and sidewalk for the cut. In terms of stormwater, verify the functionality of the existing bioretention area and complete any maintenance. Protect the existing bioretention area with appropriate erosion control measures, that'd be your silt fence, so on and so forth. From public safety, confirm the fire lane provided on the west side of the building to be 24 feet in width, and the turning radius is adequate for the fire apparatus. A Knox box is required near the main entrance to the building. And then provide additional private hydrant on the west side of the building and coordinate with public safety on the exact location for that. Forestry from Tim, recommended approve as presented. He was very pleased with the selection, distribution, and types of landscape that's being proposed. From Bike and Ped, this actually would be a condition of approval because this is a residential building. Inclusion of bicycle parking that meets the recommendations of the Association of Pedestrian and Bicycling Professionals near the retail use, and a second for tenants near their primary entrance. This will be a very walkable, bikeable location that can make sense as a condition of approval in this instance. So I guess what I'll do at this point is I'll hand it over to Tim for any kind of discussion. Any questions you have for me or Tim after he's done, we're happy to hear them.
Thank you. State your name and address for the record, please, Tim.
Hi, Tim Willaz, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 320 East Buffalo, 53202.
Okay.
Sorry, Tim, I guess while you speak, if you could take your mask off to speak, it's a little difficult otherwise.
Gotcha.
Beautiful building, Tim.
Thank you. So I think what I could potentially add is what we wanted to do is maintain the vision that we presented to you a few years ago, and I think we really tried to hold fast to that, and I think we're going pretty far in maintaining kind of the pedestrian experience and really segregating the vehicular part of it and hiding it. So as Aaron did a really great job of presenting, so it didn't leave me too much to kind of expound on, but what I will say is we really are excited about the plaza and what it could mean to that corner. And the way we designed it, we really wanted this to be a special corner. And yeah, so some of the materiality and some of the architectural features that we are putting there are intended to kind of really landmark that corner.
Does anybody have any questions for Aaron or Tim?
The question I have, the height permit from the airport, is that something you have to go through yet, or is that already done?
She said before, right?
We would probably have to go through
That's
that with
something
the
you have to
airport,
do
yeah,
yet?
just to verify.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. I don't know how you're gonna pull this, or take this thing apart, because there's a new word in this village that I did not create. We built a beautiful building on the corner of Oneida and Lombardi, and Madam President came up with the word wow. This definitely fits in this category. I think it's going to be one of the premier buildings within the village as far as the aesthetics of it and the things that are planned with that property. I was with this project from the beginning when you first came here, going through the first building and now the second one. The plan you brought with the first one included the whole, the complex of the 4 buildings along with all the green space and the amenities added to the public area. I'm glad to see that you're continuing to go along with what we had seen. I'm sure there might be a few little changes as you go, but I think it fits the original picture that you had, and I think this is going to be another one of those wow moments when this is done. So I will be a few feet from you where I'm at to look at it all the time. I hope I'm not going to be looking at it that long because it's time to get out and get my place shut down. But anyway, I can't say anything more about it. I hope somebody else has something to say.
Well, how about move to approve?
Second. Second.
Okay, so Dan, did you say move to approve?
Yeah, with staff condition.
The wall?
And wow.
And Chris was a second?
Andy was.
Oh, I'm sorry, Andy was a second. With all staff conditions? Okay, any further questions?
No.
Wow. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nice building.
Motion carried.
Very nice
Thank you.
building.
Thank you, everybody.
Great addition to that corner.
Good job on your concealed fasteners as well.
That part I got from phase 1, yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tim.
See you at 5:30 then.
Okay, number 4, action regarding requested rooftop ductwork screening exception for Valley View Elementary School and Ashwaubenon High School. Aaron?
At our previous site plan review committee meeting, we did approve the improvements for the school district referendum projects, including the new ductwork that'll be added to Valley View Elementary and the Ashwaubenon High School. Since that time, I was contacted by Brander Engineering as well as the school district to ask if there's any way to look at an exception for the screening due to a structural analysis that Brander performed, as well as the number of rooftop penetrations through the, it's called EPDM, or basically rubber membrane roofing. The concern from the school district is that that number of penetrations, I forget what the actual number is, looks like 240 at Valley View and 260 at the high school, create opportunities, in this case an opportunity is a bad thing, for water infiltration into the school itself. So I think with that, what I'll do, actually I'll just, one more thing. So under our site plan review committee ordinance, you do have the ability to provide exceptions to site plan review requirements due to a unique and unnecessary hardship. So in this case, they are asking for an exception to the screening of the ductwork, not the mechanicals. So the chillers themselves would still maintain screening. So with that, I'll probably hand it off to the school district representatives to, I guess, come forward and provide any additional answers or explanations.
Okay. So please state your name and address for the record.
Tom Schmidt, 1934 Creamery Road in De Pere. And I can answer, I guess, any questions about the project. If there's specifics about the mechanicals and the structural components of the roof, Joe Finger from Brander can answer those.
This is, Aaron, this is similar to what we did with the WPS building, correct?
That's correct. In that instance, WPS did provide a structural analysis demonstrating that the roof itself could not support the weight of the screening, especially considering the snow load and wind load requirements necessary to support it. I guess I want to stress that that was an existing building,
Right.
And an older building built in the 1950s. So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Right. Right.
I've got a real problem with this. We put together, and I'm saying we by Aaron and his staff, put together some information on what is looked at when people build buildings, do add-ons, do modifications to buildings. And in there are all these things that we're going to talk about here. They should have thought about that before they went and did all this ductwork and whatever they're doing on the roof. I understand why it's on the roof, I don't have a problem with that. But they should have realized that they're going to have to screen this. And now they are in the process of doing this because of a referendum they had to have in order to finance this. The screening should have been thought about, and it wasn't. Now it's thrown back at us to make a decision on should we exempt it. I tell you, I got a hard time to say I'm going to accept this because the rules, the regulations, and the building codes are in these pamphlets that we provide for these contractors. Now you got a building that is just a single-story building with all these tubes running around facing residential areas. I'm not for this. We're here to help the village maintain a nice appearance, and now we're going to have a bunch of tubes running around the building, and the residents got to take a look at that. I can understand UPS's deal because they're in an industrial area where the public doesn't have to see it, and it's far enough along or off the road where Lombardi Avenue, which is considered a county highway. I'm sorry, I can't go along with it. I'm thinking of the people that live within those areas, and they got to look at that ugly tubing on the roof. I've got to say that I think this was kind of shutting the door before the horse got out. So that's my 2 cents worth. I know it penetrates the ceiling, but they should have thought about that before they began this project.
I agree with you, Gary. The first thing I thought when I saw this is now we're going to put a factory in the middle of a residential area.
There you go.
Because the first thing I thought of is how you see factories with all their tubing and all that on the roof. And I'm like, man, if I was a resident, I'd be wild if I knew about this.
Yeah.
So I think before I'm going to vote for it, I think the neighbors should know about it and let them have a say in it. I mean, it is their taxpayer money. If we have to do something like add on or do something different, it's going to cost more money. But, man, I don't think it's fair for this committee to make that decision without those residents knowing what they're going to be looking at.
I agree with Dan. I think what in this situation, you can't handle some of the area you can fix, some you can't, right? That's what we're saying in here, right?
I'm sorry, Andy. I
Some of
didn't-
them, well, from what I understand, it can be
Talk into
fixed.
your mic, Andy, please.
Some can be fixed, but some cannot. I mean, so they're gonna see some of this stuff, and if you try to screw it down, there's gonna be water possibilities coming into the school, and it's gonna cost a lot more money to try to fix it, correct? Right?
Correct. You're penetrating the roof to get into and down to the joist and then repairing where you cut into the roof.
Well, I think like Dan says, people probably should know, because if they're crowing about it and they're upset about it, which maybe they should be, I guess, maybe, but do they want to have their taxpayer money spent on it? I'm not so sure. For us, this committee to make that, I agree with Dan. I think they should be knowing what their money is going to be spent on before we,
Yeah, we're talking about spending taxpayer money on a taxpayer building and then starting to make exceptions to our code. I'm not comfortable voting for an exception on the code without the residents especially the ones that live in that neighborhood, understanding what they're going to get if we vote for this.
yeah,
I mean, it's their building. It's as much their building as it is ours.
For myself, I would have a hard time voting yes on it, even if the residents were okay with it. It still goes against our ordinances. It's still going to be an eyesore. Around the schools is densely populated. It's what we're trying to avoid Ashwaubenon turning into. When this was looked at, it should have been, I mean, it's a structural issue is what you're saying, correct?
Correct. A little history on why this ductwork is on the roof. When that building was built, it was built with individual unit ventilators in each one of the classrooms. And that's how they did that back in the late 50s. One of the things that we're trying to address as a school district, especially when you look at the challenges of a pandemic, are increasing air exchanges in the buildings, having control over those air exchanges, and trying to add things like needlepoint bipolar ionization where we can increase the infiltration. The way that building was built, there isn't any room between the ceiling and the joist of the roof to put the ductwork that's necessary to add air handling units and that type of ventilation. So really our only opportunity to help increase those air exchanges, and another thing that we're trying to do as a school district, is increase our sustainability and decrease maintenance costs, annual maintenance costs, as those are challenges every year our budgets go down. We have approximately 140 of these unit ventilators that would be removed and we would add, I believe it's 5 or 6 air handling units to take those over. 140 electronic cards that get removed. So we're trying to increase our sustainability and decrease our maintenance costs, increase the air exchanges in the building, increase the sanitation and the air quality in the building, in buildings that were built in the late 50s and 60s. So we're challenged where the only way we can do that is get that on the roof. We struggled and investigated and spent a ton of time in the ceilings of the hallways, in the classrooms, trying to figure out how to penetrate through firewalls. And when you look at the structure of the buildings, it just couldn't happen. Otherwise, there's no way we would, as a facilities director, there's no way I would advocate for any penetrations in the roof. And you're going to see there's penetrations to get from the second floor of these classrooms down through the first floor of the classrooms. That's what the purpose of the ductwork is on the roof, so we can get to these classrooms. I would never advocate for putting penetrations in the roof if we had a way out, and we really don't. So in order to air condition these schools, we're back to trying to fit a cooling coil in a 50-year-old unit ventilator where we have little to no control over, specific control over the air exchanges in the room. Part of the maintenance issues with these unit ventilators is in the winter, when you get this really sub-zero temperatures we had, snow blows up against the outside air dampers. They don't close when we go to our unoccupied temperatures, and then the coils freeze, flood the classrooms. And then we have 2 or 3 classrooms and hallways flooded with water. That happened at night. So we're not asking, and because it wasn't planned out, because it wasn't thought about, this is really the current situation we're in trying to air condition the schools, which the residents of the village approve the air conditioning, and it's my responsibility and Joe's responsibility to find the best way to do that. And we examined everything that we could to try to get the air quality improvements, the ventilation improvements, and try to get it in a controllable amount of money. And that's where we're at right now. So we're not here asking the committee to go out on a limb and give us an exception because we didn't do our research. It's the current situation that we're in. So penetrating a school roof in 600 locations, that's just the fencing. That's not the other penetrations that we have to do because we can't get the ductwork in the building. So in order to make this a workable, doable project, that ductwork has to go up there. And the school district is aware of, screening the mechanicals, and that's what we've done. That's included any chillers, any mechanical things that are on the roof. So what's left is a horizontal profile of the ductwork as it runs across the roof. Maybe there's some things we can do. I believe we can add a sandstone color to it, but it is a horizontal profile. And so if you think about it, when I think about it, I would be screening a horizontal profile with another horizontal profile. It wouldn't look like a screen fence, but it's, again, a horizontal profile that you're looking at. So it's not corrugated ductwork running all around the roof and snaking all over. It'll have a clean look to it. And we really worked hard to try to get and improve the aesthetics as much as possible with the solutions that we have to air condition these schools. So just so you have a little information on where we're at and the situation that the school district is in, because penetrating a roof 600 times is just a really, really, really bad idea. And even if we looked at that, the screening component before we decided to air condition the schools, it's still a fact that in the end, we would be penetrating the school that you guys paid money to through your taxes, penetrating those roofs and hurting the structural integrity of those membranes. So that's kind of where we're at. And that's the work that we've done. And that's everything that we've tried to do to make this project go.
What is supporting the ductwork itself? Is there any way to screen the ductwork off of the supports that support the ductwork? Or to increase the gauge thickness of the ductwork and actually do something with that? Or can we hard clad the ductwork and have it painted with some form of siding to make it visually appealing? There's got to be another option besides saying that it just can't happen.
Correct. We did investigate that. The view from the road, from the curb, you don't actually see the legs of the ductwork. So again, you would be covering up a horizontal profile with another horizontal profile.
Right, but our ordinance does require screening, so why can't we screen, why can't we use the supports for the ductwork to hold the screening? And then you would be compliant. Because that ductwork is obviously attached to the building, it's penetrating the building, the roof.
The ductwork is penetrating the building where the ducts go through, but the legs and supports do not. They sit on pads on top of the roof.
Can you attach the screening to those legs?
It would require some engineering on that, which might increase the leg sizes, because the issue you'll have is wind resistance.
But it's potentially possible.
It is potentially possible.
In my opinion, that's the direction we should look before we make any decisions.
Joe can answer that. I'll let Joe speak to that.
Thank you.
You know, the only comment I want to make about this ventilation system, I'm going to call it, if anybody watched any news for the last year, this has been talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So this is nothing new. You've seen it on TV already where they're ventilating the schools, and they always did talk about the schools to try and keep the air as fresh as possible. And this is the way of doing it. But I'm going to go back to my original saying. There's got to be a way to screen these things, and I like what you suggested, Chris. I think you're already penetrating it. What is it going to take to put something on what is there to screen it and make it look pleasable to the neighbors, because it is in a residential area, not a commercial area.
That one I have up there.
I agree with Chris. If the screening can be attached to the support is one issue. My concern, because I've had flat roofs and I've dealt with roofs and I've dealt with leaks, when you're penetrating a roof 260 times and then you're also creating issues for the support, that's even more. That's a huge concern for me. So I don't know if those things can be addressed.
Yeah, so Joe Finger with Brander Engineering, 975 Hanson Road, Green Bay. So we did look at that. Originally, that was the thought, is if we had to put screening in, was to attach directly to those duct supports, because why put up additional supports, right? So the duct supports currently, they are sitting on top of the membrane, and then we're only penetrating the roof in the locations where we go into those rooms. The ductwork up on top of the roof is round, which reduces our wind loading, right? Because like a car, right? The wind's gonna go around that a lot easier, and you don't have as much surface area that's catching that wind. The moment we stick a flat surface on there, that increases the wind loading and overstresses those joists. So, and then also, if you, I don't know if you can zoom in, maybe up on the top there, Aaron, right in here. The way the ductwork's laid out on the roof is it comes out and it follows a, we'll say, right over the top of the corridor is where we have the main ductwork, and then a branch duct for supply air and a branch duct for return air that goes. So if we were to follow those supports, that screening would not be a straight line up on that roof. It would be a zigzag in and out following that ductwork, you know.
How high does our ordinance say that screening needs to be?
It needs to be 1 foot above the mechanical equipment, is the way that ordinance reads.
You know, if you would put some type of a screening, and I'm not an expert on the screening, but if you'd put some type of a louvered screening on there where the air can pass through there and reduce the wind load, you know, I don't know why something of Chris's thought and your professional thinking can't be done to allow some amount of that air to blow through.
We
And
can.
still have the screening.
We can look at that on louvered screening and see if that reduces the wind loading. The interpretation of our reading of the ordinance on there was that the screening is around rooftop mechanical equipment, just the way the ordinance reads, right? So this ductwork is not associated with rooftop mechanical equipment. The actual HVAC unit is located inside of the building, okay? So the chillers are mechanical equipment located up on the roof, and we plan to screen those. The ductwork is associated with interior mechanical equipment.
I would make a motion to deny this
I'll second.
and come back with an idea on how you can screen it to let the air pass through some type of a screening process that would eliminate the load that you're talking about.
I would have to agree. I think there's probably a better solution versus just going with allowing this. I think there you'd be able to come up with a pretty good idea, something that'll meet our ordinances and keep our residents happy. And if, like Gary said, if this was down in an industrial park, I would be more apt to allow it. But I personally think that we'll be able to come up with a good solution.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to deny and come back with a different option. Is there any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thank you. Number 7, department reports.
I'm sure you all heard the news of Chick-fil-A coming to town. That will be on our next agenda item, next on March 16th, so I guess it kind of bleeds into the items for next agenda. But that has taken some time. We're working through that right now with the traffic impact analysis. I think that's the only item for that meeting so far.
Where's it coming to, Aaron?
It'll be located, if you know where Panda Express is in front of the mall, be located just on the south side of Anderson Drive entrance from that.
How much more traffic is anticipated, Aaron?
There's definitely an increase in traffic anticipated. We'll dive into that in the TIA, but
Right.
just for background, we did request the firm doing the traffic impact analysis to use actual transactional data for a Chick-fil-A in Brookfield. So they're able to use that information.
One is nice.
Pardon?
We ate there a couple times, the Brookfield one was very good.
Yeah. Okay, we'll discuss that at our next meeting. That's the items for the next agenda. Any other items for next agenda? Nope,
Not that I know of.
nope. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.